Cancer UK. And Stephen Fry's face kept appearing, and I was aware of, I'd worked with Stephen before, and I knew he'd gone through prostate cancer. Remember that video he did, speaking very honestly about it. And I thought, should I ring the GP? And I'm not a doctor person. You know, most men I don't think are really. And I phoned up and just said, should I get this test? I'm over 50 now. And they were like, have you got any symptoms? I was, no. And they said, oh, don't worry about it then. Come back when you have symptoms. I said, OK. And then they said, oh, any family history involved in it? And I don't know. I was adopted. And they were like, OK, you better come in. And that's what got me through the door. And had I not been adopted, I'd be now walking around with cancer and not knowing about it.
If you'd had a family with no history of
yeah.
And so, when you did go in, you had the normal tests. Everything?
Yeah. So PSA, there's the finger, obviously, which they do in conjunction with the PSA blood test, and the prostate's very clever because what it does, it sends out a signal if there's something wrong with it. So it can either be enlarged, which is kind of normal and fine the older you get, but if there's cancer, the PSA, prostate-specific antigen, it's a warning signal, and then they can look at these signals that it's sending out, and then work out from there whether you're going to need the next stage MRI scan, biopsies, and so on and so forth. So the prostate's quite smart in that sense that it can tell you that there's something wrong with it, but you have to go and get the test. But there's no national screening programme for it, so you kind of have to force your way through the door.
You've decided to do this series talking about cancer and men specifically, and obviously we had you, me, and the Big C here, back at Deborah James and the whole team, of course, late Deborah James, but it was focused a lot on women and women's cancer.
I thought. I mean, when I got diagnosed, I looked around for something to answer questions I had, ranging from how big are the needles to, you know, will I live? And there weren't any men talking about this stuff, and I thought, I'm going to make the programme, a very privileged position to be able to do so, that I would have lapped up had it been available when I was diagnosed. So that's what I've done. But working in comedy, I thought that and there were so many funny moments going through the whole process, and you have to shine a light into
Most of them you can't talk about on this programme.
I certainly can't talk about them this time of the morning on the BBC. But there's a lot of funny stuff happens because it's all very undignified. You know, there's a lot of downstairs action and so forth, but it's all funny because you're in this undignified position. So I thought, I'm just going to talk about that with, you know, other people who've gone through cancer, other men, specifically, because men just get embarrassed. Men do not talk about that stuff. So I thought I would. My mum has very much told me I've overshared.
OK, I won't ask you specifically in what way you overshared. But clearly, alongside, and I've seen some of the podcasts, and you're right, there is a lot of laughter in amongst. But you clearly, as a relatively young man when you were diagnosed, you must have gone through some very challenging times. Because it's something you probably, as you said just now, you don't think it's going to be you. It's not going to be your story. And that's quite a big thing to take hold of and own and know and then deal with.
I think I approached it, as I do everything, by compartmentalising in a way. And I sort of went, OK, I've got to... Once you're on that, what it is, it's a cliche, but the cancer conveyor belt. So if you get a diagnosis, there's a very fast-track move. You know, within 2 weeks, you're in an MRI scanner, you get a biopsy next, and there's a very fast process once you're in it. And what you do, what I found, is you sort of move to the next hurdle and just get over it. And a lot of what we talk about in the podcast as well is you know, the not knowing is the problem, and the fear of what they might be doing to you. Because it's major surgery in the case of, you know, it's a 5.5-hour operation with robots, which is incredible, but you don't know what to expect. So I sort of wanted to answer those questions with the podcast and sort of get... And I talked to my surgeon about the whole thing. I opened the conversation with him by just saying, what did my insides look like? Which he thought was a fair question for a surgeon, and then described them in detail.
Did you get to see? Do you ever show... Do you ever get to see?
There's a DVD of it, but I haven't got it yet. I've asked for it.
Is there really?
Yeah. Because the first thing that goes in with the robot is a camera, of course. And it's all done remotely, so the surgeon's not even touching you. He's on, like, VR goggles, basically sitting over there. So it's incredible stuff. Yeah.
It would be so good to see. You speak to lots of people. The main aim is... I mean, you say you would have wanted this when you were going through the treatment. It's also kind of an awareness.
Oh, it is.
To avoid it, full stop.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I want with this series, this podcast, is for men to start talking about it, really. I mean...
But talking about everything, because there are some real Well, sexual performance, impotency,
you know, incontinence,
all
of which can be side effects.
Which is hard to talk about, even if you're just down the pub and there's just a couple of you or whatever. So it's out there.
Yeah, just demystify it was my point, I think. Yeah, and it's, you know, there are side effects depending. There are various treatments available for prostate cancer. Not that we just talk about prostate cancer in the show, because it's all kinds, but they each come with their own set of side effects that you have to sort of navigate. And I thought, well, just by being honest about it. I mean, I won't tell you about self-administered injections into areas of yourself.
Don't.
At this time of day.
But you can say, or I can say, it's very funny.
Yeah. Yes, it's a great listen, is what it is, which is the most important thing, because that will mean people carry on.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And we want people to get in touch as well. So we're going to do some bonus episodes, and there's an email, the C-word at bbc.co.uk, for people to share their stories, men specifically. So.
That's what it's called, the C-word. Do you know what are you a football person?
I am when it comes to the Euros or the World Cup, not generally.
Set the scene Sunday night for you. Do you know what the scene is?
I haven't quite decided yet. Well, it was all a bit late notice, wasn't it? Because no one was quite expecting that to happen, so I haven't really got a plan yet. Don't know. I mean, I will be watching it somewhere.
Yeah. We've been asking a few people what you're up to. Anne and her husband will be watching while bobbing around the North Sea on a cruise marking their 45th wedding anniversary.
Colin says, I think I'll